Now, first of all, I'm not going to lie that this podcast and our show is brought to you by Betfred Sports. It is a sports gambling app. So this is a captive audience. We certainly understand that sports gambling is popular and it's growing throughout the United States. Gambling in Nebraska has been a polarizing subject, right? Our neighbors to the east, Iowa, have had casino-style gambling and casino gambling for the last 30-plus years. However, in the state of Nebraska, it was just recently passed to allow casino-style gambling to come to the state. And just last month, the first casino opened up in Lincoln, and more are coming, including one in Omaha. But it's still been polarizing. For the last 30 years, cars have driven across the Missouri River into Council Bluffs and have funneled millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to the state of Iowa in tax money, all while Nebraska sat back and being self-righteous and saying, no, we can't have legalized gambling. Yet at the same time, the city of Omaha was marketing casinos that were in Council Bluffs to try to lure conventions and everything else. So now we have casino-style gambling, which brings us into sports betting. You know, Iowa has sports betting. In fact, as soon as you could have legalized sports betting, Iowa went with it right away. Approved it, got it going, and has been flourishing. Nebraska has sat on its feet. As casinos open, sports betting is still not legal in the state of Nebraska. It's on its way. This is the good news. I got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is the rules have been approved. The rules are now going to the state attorney general for approval and then to the governor for signage and activation of sports betting. However, can we be perfectly honest about the rules of Nebraska sports betting? Like most things that happen when it comes to gambling, they're either behind the times or they're doing it half-assed. And I mean that in all sincerity. Because in the state of Nebraska, you will not be allowed to gamble on the internet. That's right. You cannot use sports apps or you cannot even use make your bets online. And I'm going to show you right now how fiscally stupid that is for the state of Nebraska. This is from the fiscal year 2022 in the state of Iowa. The sports wagering handle was $2.4 billion. $2.4 billion. Of the retail, which Nebraska will have, where you have to physically go to a window, that handle is $243 million. The internet handle was $2.2 billion. 84% of the sports wagering handle in Iowa was made through online apps. Let me say that again. 84% of the sports handle was on online apps. The taxes collected in the fiscal years 20, 21, and 22 in the state of Iowa was $17 million. Now, taxes are not collected on the handle. They're collected on the net receipts. 77% of that $17 million over really a 2.5-year period. I know it's 3 fiscal years, but Iowa didn't start till late in 20. 77% of those taxes came from internet and app gambling. Folks, taxes collected in the first month of college football in the state of Iowa. This is September of 2022. $1.7 million just in September. The sports wagering handle in the state of Iowa for September was $200 million. Look at the retail handle. $22 million, but yet $177 million was over the internet. To me, that clearly tells me that state senators want gambling and sports gambling specifically to fail in the state of Nebraska. And when they tell you, you know what, it just hasn't been the windfall we thought it was going to be, you look at your state senator and you say, that's BS, that you guys did it half-assed and you are cheating the state of Nebraska and the consumers who want this out of really giving what they want to do. They want to pick up their phone and they want to gamble online on their phone. Why? Because there's more options. There's in-game options. I just had a buddy that was in Vegas. He was at the MGM Grand. He was able to bet faster at the MGM Grand on his phone than he was to go into the window. Nebraska is costing itself not just millions, over time will be hundreds of millions of dollars because of its inability to act and provide internet gambling to the consumers of the state. So what does this mean? Sure, you're going to have sports betting, but I'm going to have to go to a casino, but I'm going to have to go to a window. You know what's still going to happen? People are still going to drive across the river, and they're going to spend their money in the state of Iowa because they make it more accessible and easier to bet because they have internet gambling. Scott, thoughts on what I just said?
I'm all for the more possibilities to open the door to sports betting, and I would think Nebraska would get on board, obviously, once they get it right and have where you can, apps, you can have your online betting. The one thing I thought of also is they will get a higher percentage of revenue from walking into the casinos because they'll have to. So I don't know how much the gambling will drop off as far as that ability to be able to bet online if you're in Iowa as opposed to in Nebraska, because they still have it cut off. I'm guessing if you cross borders, there's no way to be able to, bet online in the state of Iowa if you're in Nebraska, correct?
No, it's geotag. So I do one of two things. Yep. So I do one of two things. I either drive across the Missouri River, or I go down Abbott Drive, and the strip club in town is actually on the state line. So I can park in the Spearmint Rhino, be on one side of the parking lot, and make my bets. And it's geotagged perfectly. I've tested it.
That's great.
But it's just ridiculous.
Well, you either do it right or you don't do it at all.
Yeah, it's funny. When Iowa first launched, they had internet gaming, but you had to go set your account up. You had to physically walk in the book to set your account up. They realized within 2 months that was a dumb idea, ended it, and they said, okay, just set up your account wherever you want.